All right, we'll get started. Yeah, so I think I know everybody here. This should be pretty good conversation. Positron power users. What is a power user? All right. So it's kind of self-defining by how much you move and how much I'm sure Bob will have something to say about that, but the less you have to physically move and the less you have to think about what you're doing is the most that you're going to get out of any tool. So it's all about efficiency. A lot of people will target, mouse versus keyboard. How much do you have to scroll around versus which keys do you know how to use? Any kind of combined keystrokes that you know how to use with macros, or you don't have to think about hitting tab, enter, tab, and things like that. Minimum transition time between events. How long does it take you between actually uploading into Positron and getting started with your edit, or downloading your doll markers and getting moving on your pickups? And if someone were watching you work when you are doing power user stuff, they will have no idea what you're doing. They won't know what keys you're hitting. They won't understand that your brain is connected directly into whatever tool you're using. And it's kind of hard to teach people to be power users because it's more of a personal thing, depending on what your setup is, depending on which DAW you use, the screen size, and things like that. So it's really kind of an open process. And we want to give you as many positron options to fit within your workflow as you can. Prepping your script format can make a big difference in how much time you spend going through the proofing process. Some people spend a lot of time figuring out how page numbers sync in the reports versus what page numbers are in their PDF or their Word file. We've had suggestions to some people, if your numbers aren't syncing, you can add or delete pages or blank pages as kind of a communication device to make sure that your PDF page number and the page number and pause is the same. There's a couple different ways to do that. People have successfully made it so that they don't have to keep checking what those numbers are by prepping the script in advance. If you ever have parts of your script that you don't need that might confuse Positron or the people you're working with, you can get rid of them. And any kind of cropping that makes sense. You can do that in Acrobat. We even had one in the last few days where there were graphics on top around the borders of the actual text. And a couple key commands in Acrobat makes that all go away and it syncs in the Positron system much better. Again, making that transition time and the idea of putting exactly into Positron what you want to get out of it ahead of time. Choosing your options on the creation screen. Some people are very descriptive about their titles. Other people have, ABC 101F2. And depending on how you use it and what your team's like, the more descriptive or consistent your project titling is, it'll be easier to share with your team and it'll be easier to share with us. Project management options. There's going to be more coming soon as far as due dates. What else do we have going in there right now, Adam, for the near future?
Yeah, a lot of it is going to be well, there's a couple things. One is going to be live tracking of your progress on a project based on, if there's 10,000 words in a project and your audio files include 7,000 words that you've uploaded, it's going to show narration 70% done. A couple other things to actually live track your progress in a project. But a lot of the project management options are going to be in collaboration. So if you've got a project with a narrator, a prepper assigned, a narrator assigned, and an editor assigned, when the prepper clicks the button saying I'm finished my prep work, that will automatically send a pronunciation package to the narrator. When the narrator uploads the audio, that will automatically send a notification to the proofer to say it's time to proof. When the proofer says, yep, I'm done, and closes the last annotation, we'll automatically send an email to someone who's assigned as an editor for them to download the pick a packet, the DAW markers and that kind of thing. So really, we're just trying to make it seamless from a communication perspective. Either if you're working with 2 people in a project or 10 people in a project.
Yep. And what AJ said, words per chapter and file, those are all concepts that we're working on, trying to make it as collaborative and quick as possible from a project management standpoint. Sensitivity settings. So I don't know how many of you are using those yet. The projects that I've turned in to test I turn the sensitivity on the original creation screen all the way up. And at that point, it almost turns into like it checks your diction. And so you can go back and say okay to all of those things if you want, but it gives you kind of an analysis about how clear your words are. And to me, that's kind of a power user thing because it shows you your intention, especially with dialogue. But if you're not worried about those things at all, if you're doing a first brush just to do what Positron's really good at, and you don't want those extra clicks and you don't want that extra analysis, turn it down to relaxed and it'll cut out quite a bit of that extra clicking that you have to do. But if you pick your sensitivity settings intentionally, then it gives you a more specific approach to what you're trying to do. And if anybody hasn't, David says, the sensitivity warning always scares me off. You should try it. It does what you expect it to, especially when you turn it up. I really like getting that feedback about diction, especially in the dialogue parts.
And that is entirely intentional, David. We want to over communicate the impact of it. So someone doesn't set something too extra sensitive and say, why are there a million annotations? Or to
Right.
relax, why did something get missed? So we want to really over communicate the impact of using that.
Yeah. And in a 15-minute audio file, I'll easily get 60 on that extra sensitive setting where only two of them are pickups, but that rest of that data is kind of important to me. Like, I definitely stayed in character because there's my drop D's and T's. Or it even picks up emotional language because you tend to slur letters, or I do at least. So knowing that as part of the process helps me get better. In the pronunciation page and character voice guide, there are always the hotkeys for R and I. So for those of you who haven't used it, this is a clean project here.
Just
When
one
you,
second, Ryan. While we're just before off the topic of sensitivity, AJ asks, anyway, we could do another pass with a different sensitivity setting. Unfortunately, not. And the reason is the algorithm is basically set at sensitivity per project. So if you do want to do that, just create a second project with, project name pass two, and then set it to a different sensitivity setting. Those will still be caught in the same re-upload feature, whether it's in the same project or not. So if you want to do a second pass at a different sensitivity, create a different project and then set the sensitivity different.
and we can work with you if you want to just do a test on that as well, because we like getting that data back as well. No big deal. Remapping the hotkeys. I don't. Andre's here. What do you think, Andre? You want to remap the hotkeys for Bob?
If you've got any suggestions, shoot us an email and we can.
Of course. So when you do open the suggestions and the pronunciation, so R and I know this is a short list. We'll add capitalized common. It can look intimidating to be able to have to click through 136 words. But really, if you just laser focus on that top column and just hit R or I, you can work through them really, really fast, just thinking about what's on top. So don't hesitate to kind of work through that possibility. I mean, you can really populate a pronunciation guide quickly and accurately.
And those also work for the character guide as well.
Yep.
Same hotkeys.
Same concept. So as soon as the suggestions are open, that R and I. Yep. Jeff says he's in love with R and I. That's good, Jeff. So cutting and pasting options in that same concept, you can import lists. We'll go to the pronunciation. In this box here, and you can either enter words one at a time, or is it a text file that you can import? Is that what Roman about?
You can just, as long as it's a single list per item, you can copy it from Word, copy it from Excel. As long as it's one word per line, you can copy it from anything.
Yep. And all of those will go directly in and get looked up. So it's a great, quick way to get a bunch of stuff into your pronunciation research. So it's kind of a hybrid of the older way of doing things and this version where you have the one-click links and all the export options. Importing and exporting, we now have transferring research for both the pronunciation guide and the character voice guide. So any kind of transfer in a series works perfectly well now.
And
And
just to be clear, Ryan, could you just open up that just to show exactly where that's found? So you click, yeah, you click on import, export, click on transfer research. And then if you open that up, Ryan, it'll bring up a list of all your other projects. And then you'll just choose which project you want to transfer that research to. Now, it'll put every single word on your list from your first project into your second project.
yep, so no more duplicating efforts. And it does the identical thing in the character voice guide as of now, right?
Correct.
Good stuff. I know we were working on that.
One thing to note, if you do that transfer inside the pronunciation guide, that will only transfer the pronunciation research.
Mhm.
Inside the character guide, that will only transfer the character research. So if you want to do both, you just have to do that transfer process 2 times.
Yep. And depending on if you want to work with spreadsheets versus online packets, both those are export options from both the pronunciation research and the character voice guide. So multiple options for going into or out of all the research that you do.
We are also working on an offline export for both of those projects
Yep.
as well.
And I'm pretty confident that most of the people in the room, might be a few who haven't, before you upload a project file, you can add at narrator 1 or at narrator 2 at the end of the file before the file type. And every pickup in that chapter will automatically have the narrator tag added to it. This is an old school workaround we're working on updating it within projects. But still, if you know that everything in chapter 1 is going to be narrator 1 and everything in chapter 2 is going to be narrator 2, it's really easy to hit at narrator whatever at the end of the file before you upload it. And that automatically sets your pickups up. Uploading. Wave MP3s and FLACs all work the same. If you're worried about space and how long it takes to upload and download, you can change those up. It 100% works the same in the system. Archiving. So we've had a lot of questions about exporting individual chapters versus whole books and DAW markers and pickup reports. And you can do a lot by using the archive function. Move this out of the way. So if you have a single chapter that you want things exported from, you can always click the hamburger and download the audio, archive the chapter individually, or export the chapter, the DAW markers, or the pickup packet, or the proofing report. But if you're working with sections of multiple chapters, what you can do is sync the Pozotron view with your DAW view. So say that I have chapters 2, 3, and 4 in the DAW in front of me, and I want the markers to line up the same on the online report as I do in my session on the computer. All you have to do is choose which chapters you see in front of you. And then when you export these reports as a whole, it will sync with just whatever's on the screen. You never lose anything that you've archived. You can always bring it back, but you can really use that to your advantage to work in chunks so that you don't have to do multiple things back and forth with single chapters or open different sessions or things like that. So using the archive is kind of an accordion for efficiency of importing and exporting different parts of your project is a really quick way to get that done. Any questions on that? I know I've had to explain that to a few people that work different ways with projects. The annotation column. So autofilling and auto suggesting inside here. If you want to add tags, when you click this little button, it auto suggests very intelligently. So if you hit the 1 button, it's automatically going to show you anything that has a 1 in it. If you hit the M button, it's going to automatically show those there. Any kind of keys that you can press quickly that pops up what you're looking for, you can really move more quickly by knowing to hit those keys and then the hotkeys that go after it. So one, enter, tab, 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 enter will put narrator one. And you can really start cruising through those annotation column auto suggestions once you figure out which key combinations to use. Less clicking for sure. Spot check speed mode. I still can't use this very well, but if you get used to it, you can start, and especially in conjunction with just showing the open ones, you can hit play and hit these hotkeys right here. A and D. Annotation is okay. For A, D is a pickup once you get started. And I don't know if you'll hear the playback, but
They were in the music room.
that's fine.
They were in the music room. Mad for
That's
you.
fine.
Mad
That's a
opening.
pickup.
He argued. Fullerton seemed to be weighing the matter judiciously.
Pickup.
But I love
It's okay.
and her eyes delicately warmed the boyish fullness that thought was hot on his tongue.
So the idea is you can listen for a few seconds and hit A or D and work your way all the way through this whole thing. And if you listen carefully, you will catch all of these the same as if you did it much slower. Again, it gives me brain scramble, and you see that with this annotation open, you can look at just the one at the top.
Also, you can combine that with being able to change the speed. So you could put it to, 0.75 speed on the playback, and it'll give you a little bit more time per annotation.
Yep. And once you've gone all the way through with the annotation open, then you can look at Pozotron created, and it'll show you the list of everything you just marked as a pickup. And then you can work your way back by going to 5 minutes in or exporting your DAW markers. Once you fix it, click fixed, it disappears. Fix that next one at 522, click it, disappears, 507. So you can really scream your way through and focus on the proofing part instead of the interface for the proofing. Hotkeys, I showed you where that icon was. At tags versus pound tags. So these at tags mean that it shows up in the online packet in a different tab and a different tab on the spreadsheet if you export that as well. And the hashtags are more for your personal reference within those. So if I exported, we'll add at editing too. Oh. So add at editing. Leave when this gets exported. Everything with an at sign has a different tab that goes with it. And those tabs are the same on the spreadsheet as well. So again, how you want to see the results using the at tags and the hashtags gives you ways to search through things and have them in separate columns. Any questions about that? That's pretty good. Annotation filtering, we just went through that. Knowing your options and having a plan before you get started, whether you want to see all of them to start out and filter them as you click, or just see different kinds as you go along, can save you a bunch of time. Exporting options by the chapter or the book makes a big difference, and kind of in conjunction with that archive function. Adam can probably explain the difference between the single markers and the marker regions better, because he was the one who had that requested.
Yeah. So for Audition, Audacity, and Studio One or Twisted Wait, I can answer that question myself quickly. You have two different options for your DOM markers. So, and the only reason it's limited to those is that they're the only ones that actually, the only DAWs that actually support that functionality. It is Audition Reaper, I should say, Audition Reaper and Audacity. You can do not only a single marker, which is the traditional version of the DAW markers that we have, where it gives you the marker at the beginning of your pickup. A marker range will mark the beginning and end of your pickup. So you can see that entire section in your DAW. We would love to be able to offer that for all of the DAWs, but many of them just don't support it. For example, in Reaper, if you export a marker range, I believe you can even get as specific as changing the color code for each of those markers and things like that. So a little bit different functionality in each of the DAWs, not because of Pozotron, because they just have different functionality, but really cool feature. And for some users will be.
Online packets, explore different ways to put it on your screen. There have been people who successfully do side to side, top to bottom, third to two thirds, whether they're scrolling from top to bottom or bottom to top, depending on what DAW you use. And let us know if things fit the way that they expect. We've made a couple adjustments over time, how things collapse on the screen. So it makes a big difference if you can see exactly the information you need in the part of the screen that you need it with the DAW that you use. So eventually I use the upper two thirds of the screen for the online pickup packet and then the bottom third for Pro Tools. And it works really quickly because you can see what's going on with the least amount of movement. The other things that we're working on, navigation, moving between screens. It's a big deal. We're making hotkeys for everything that we can. Screen real estate, making sure that things work for different screen sizes, iPads and tablets. And the relationship between the guides and the proofing tool. I know Adam's working on some mock-ups of being able to choose words on the proofing page to show up in the pronunciation guide and character voice guide. So these types of things are what you can explore as a power user to definitely get the most out of what's going on. And then I think we have enough time for Adam to show a few more things.
Yeah, I just want to show one thing, and that is our first launch of noise detection, which is coming out on Monday. Need you to pass me back, host, please, Ryan. Unshare your screen.
Yep.
Unshare, de-share. I don't know the right.
And AJ talking about the online proofing report as well. She had a question.
Online proofing report? I'm assuming that just means the pickup packet.
Yeah. It's when you export the pickup packet and it's just a clickable link.
Yeah, it's the URL where you just send the web link and it shares it's your standard pickup packet that you're probably sharing.
Yep.
Ryan, you want to make me, you made me host. Okay, so first launch of our noise detection is going to be next week on Monday. And the first thing we're doing is hard clipping. So you can see here, these are the same two audio files, and they added in a bunch of clipping here. So for here, you can see there's 30 annotations. For here, there is 33. Once you upload, we are adding an annotation filter for noises as well. That will be the week after. But let's go to, I put them all in at 2 minutes. Let me know if you can hear this, Ryan.
Tell plan, and it's especially trained operatives do innumerable simple acts which the ordinary individual citizen saboteur can perform.
So as you can tell, you can hear the audio really get distorted there with the clip. You're going to see this noise detected. So you can see one here. You can also see one here at 4 minutes. I handily put it in every 2 minutes just to note there. So any hard clip is going to be automatically detected. After that, we're going to be building in a ton of other noise detection for other synthetic sounds. And after, we're working on with a big database of natural noises, from dog barking to everyone's favorite leaf blower next door to kids screaming in the background. So the idea is that any noise that is not supposed to be in the audio will be flagged. And the goal is it's going to help your proofing and just keep you focusing on the creative stuff. You're not having to focus on listening for noises in the background as well as all the other things Pozotron catches. From a business model perspective, we are going to be releasing this as included in everyone's package for the foreseeable future. However, once it is fully out there and tested and fully up and running, that will be split out from the existing pricing. So it will be an option. You can upload your audio and choose to include noise detection in that proofing. And then that'll be just an additional PFH cost for that audio. So it means that we're not changing the pricing for all the current features. Those are going to stay as, but then if you do choose to use this feature, you'll be able to control, maybe use it on some projects and not others. We haven't fully defined the pricing plan yet, but that's going to be from a philosophical basis, how we go with that. My family will be very happy when I stop yelling at them to be super quiet upstairs. Well, we're happy.
The official on the report, family yelling upstairs.
We're going to be, to start with, fairly vague isn't the right word. We're going to just stick with noise detected. The goal is eventually that we will be able to say a dog barking in the background, for example. Oh, we're not yet at the point where we can guarantee that we'll be able to determine that. There's a whole bunch of other things we have coming up next week as well. Most of them are at the back end, just little things on the script prep side of things that we're going to be improving. But we have a really exciting couple months from noise detection, project management, a whole bunch of other really cool stuff that I am personally very, very excited about. And I think will make everyone's productions just that much easier. Does anyone have any questions before we sign off?
That was a lot of information for half an hour. And everyone has that paranoia, AJ. All of us do. Turn your headphones way up and then the paranoia gets worse. That should be it. Trish, you've been quiet. I know you have suggestions for us.
So noise detection, the first hard clipping will be released on Monday. And then after that, we'll be rolling out as we complete detection of other types of noises. They'll be rolled out kind of iteratively. We're anticipating, so Monday's release, we'll be doing another major release, likely late February, early March. And then our goal is to have noise detection after March, sometime in April. Natural noise detection, dogs barking, that kind of thing.
Tell him never to give dates. Never do live demos, never give dates.
As always, if you have any questions, concerns, great ideas, bad ideas, send us an email. And thanks for supporting Pozotron.
Anything volunteering to help. All right. I'll see you guys all later.
Bye, everyone.